Adriana and welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, welcome, hello. So as you guys know, if you have been around my channel for a little while, I love to share my experience with you guys. I love sharing my life with you, and especially my advice, especially for all of you either doing the Disney college program or anything college related at all, really. If you do not know, I go to the University of Florida and I am a senior, so I have definitely made my rounds around the campus. My freshman year, I lived in a dorm. I lived in Mallory Hall at the University of Florida, and then I moved off campus for the remaining 3 years. I lived in one apartment my sophomore and junior year, and now I'm living in a different one my senior year. But I figured I would go ahead and share with you all the pros and cons that I've experienced of living off campus as compared to on campus. You guys ask me all the time about just like advice for housing and advice for where you should live and like just my opinions on it all. So I figured I might as well just make a video to tell you all about it, what I think, how I feel, and then leave the decision up to you. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to tell you guys all of my pros and cons, so let's just go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so I have my little pro-con list right here. I wrote it on my grocery paper, of all things. But the very first pro I have is space. I feel like this one's kind of an obvious one, but something to note for sure. Living off campus, you're definitely going to have a lot more space than living on campus. Obviously, they're trying to accommodate all of the freshmen that they can, or just all of the students that they can, because you can live on campus any year that you're at the university. But definitely living on campus, I have found that I just have a lot more space. I have my own room, which is really, really nice. I have my full bed, which is super nice, not a twin anymore. Whole room, my whole living room, whole kitchen. Obviously space varies depending what apartment you sign at, but definitely compared to living off campus, I have a lot more space. When I lived on campus, I lived in a double. I think that's what that's called. I don't really remember the terminology anymore, but it was me and another girl, and we shared the room. So we had one room and 2 beds, and it was great while it lasted. Like, I really didn't have any complaints while I was living there, but moving out and now experiencing something new, I obviously realized, like, wow, that could have been a lot better, you know? So that is definitely a big one, having space, just having all of your own space, a whole room to just live, have your happy place, you know? So space was a really big one for me, and that's a really big pro to living off campus for me. Okay, another really big pro, and this one I didn't really realize or consider when I was looking at an apartment or even looking to make this decision at all, especially my freshman year, but I have loved living away from campus. The apartment I live at is fairly a bit further away from campus than most other ones. There are a lot of apartments surrounding campus so close that you're practically on campus. Mine is a little bit further away, but I love that. Like, I love my school, I love going to school, you know, I love being involved in school and doing things like that, but when I'm away, I want to be away. Like, I don't want to see anything orange and blue, you know what I mean? So I just really appreciate having like my space away from campus, away from all of that craziness, and I really love that it gives me the opportunity to explore Gainesville a bit more. Obviously, you can explore the area even if you are living on campus, but I just feel like it's been a lot easier to just kind of get my feet wet with the area and the community and get to learn different things. Like, I worked at an elementary school and it was really easy to get there, and I got to experience that whole side of town, and then I have friends who have been born and raised in Gainesville, and it was really easy to just learn about the area from them. I just loved living far away from campus, just totally separate lives. My school life, personal life, split, done. For some people, you might want to just completely immerse yourself in the college experience, and that might be for you. For me, not so much. I really enjoyed being away, so having my time away and just not having to deal with any of it. So I've really valued that, and that's not something I could have had on campus at all. Also it's really nice to be around a bunch of stores. Like, I live close to in Gainesville. If you know a little bit about Gainesville, there's Archer Road, which is basically like the big hub. Like, everything is on Archer, and I live more towards all of the shops we have and all of the restaurants, and I just love being near that side of town. If I'm ever craving something, I can easily go get it and get back to my apartment. No issues about it. I can go to the grocery store really fast, come back, no problem, and there's tons of options, and that's just really awesome for me. I kind of have the pros and the cons kind of mixed up a little bit, so the cons will come, but I just worked on a bunch of pros first, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should include some cons, so they'll come. But another pro I have is that it is cheaper, or at least it has been for me. Depending which apartment you sign at, it could be more expensive by a lot to live off campus. Living on campus, you are basically paying for the proximity to campus and being on it, and that's what you're paying for. You know, you're paying for the convenience, pretty much, of just being able to hop up in the morning 5 minutes before class and walk to class. But you are limited on space, so it is a little bit cheaper. However, if you live in an apartment that is a little bit further away, so there's no proximity but there's more space, then it's probably going to be a good bit cheaper, especially because it's a little bit further away from campus. And so that's kind of my situation. But if you live in an off-campus apartment that is super close, then you have proximity and you have more space. So basically you have two luxuries, which means it's going to be a bit more expensive. For you, it might not matter, but for some of us, it might matter. And that was definitely something that mattered for me. But also, I didn't mind sacrificing proximity at all, because another pro that I had, which now I'm jumping down the list, so I'm going to need to mark that down so I don't forget where I am. For me, another pro to living off campus was that it didn't matter that I was far away, because this whole town is a college town essentially in the end, and they know that people are here to go to school. So they made it really easy to get to campus, get back and forth with no problems. So they have buses, and they have a bus app. It's called the Rider app, that you can literally watch the bus as it drives around, or like the different buses, because there's a ton, and you could just track your bus, and it's like Uber. You can track it and you'll know exactly when you got to get on, exactly where you want to be, and exactly where it's going to take you. So that makes it super easy, no problems. Am I getting to campus in 5 minutes? No. But am I getting there in a reasonable time with reliable transportation? Yes. And so that's been totally fine for me. Scooters are a really, really big deal around here. This is like a scooter town, and so scooters are a big thing, and people will ride their scooters to and from campus. And if you live a little bit further away, then scooters are a great option, and then you can get there a bit faster than the bus. So that's also a really good option. I don't suggest parking at all. Don't even waste your time paying for parking at UF. It's horrendous. So there's that one. You just don't do it. I'm trying to think of something else. But yeah, pretty much scooters and buses are like a big thing. And yeah, transportation has not been a problem, so getting there hasn't been a big deal. Then again, I'm not someone to like wake up 5 minutes before class, because I can't really do that. But if you really value being able to wake up, like roll out of bed 5 minutes before class and then stroll on into lecture, then hey, maybe live on campus, or live a little bit in one of the apartments a little bit closer. But yeah, proximity has not been a problem because of the various means of transportation around here. Another pro that I have for living off campus is that it's easy to have friends and family over. When you live on campus, parking is very, 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 very limited. I don't even think there's enough for all of the people who do live on campus, which is worrisome, and it's quite a hassle. For sure. Like, I can remember vividly all of the early mornings and late nights I have spent circling the parking lots over and over and over again, praying that somebody will leave. Yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun at all. I do not miss those days, not one bit, because the apartment that I live at has free parking, and I can just park there. Plenty of visitor parking. So if I want to have friends over, they can park. If I have family over and they want to visit me, they can totally park, spend the night, does not matter. And that's been really, really sweet, and that is definitely a luxury that I do not have on campus at all. And so that's been a really big deal for me, especially because it is me and my two roommates, and so we have friends and family over all the time, and it just would not be very easy if we did not have easy parking. Also parking, oh wait, well, my pros are running together. This video is not very structured, so I'm just gonna talk to you guys. But parking is a big one. Obviously, parking goes hand in hand with easy to have friends over. Also, like, I'm not limited on space, so if I wanted to have somebody sleep over, I could sit up an air mattress on the floor, and it just makes life really easy in that sense, where I don't have to like kick people out, and I can have visitors and things like that. Whereas if I'm living in a dorm, I'm sharing a really small space, and then I also have to be super considerate about the other person who's living in my bedroom and whether they're okay with that or not. So just having friends over, space is super, super awesome to have living off campus. And then parking is really awesome too, because like I was saying about never being able to find parking, living off campus, like I can have my car, I can go to the grocery store, come back, and I know that the parking spot that I just had is gonna be there waiting for me when I get back. And so that's been really awesome. I also feel a lot safer because while UF does have a lot of means to make sure that their students are safe driving to and from parking lots or walking to and from parking lots, but it's also kind of a hassle. And here, like, I don't have to worry about taking a hike to where I live for my parking space. I can literally just pull in and go to my parking space, especially when I do groceries. Nobody ever thinks about it, but doing groceries is really rough when you don't have a parking space or nothing close to where you live, because then you have to hope you don't get towed if you park outside of your apartment, or not your apartment, but your dorm, to bring your groceries in, or you have to carry bags and bags of groceries on a hike to your dorm, which is not ideal for anyone. So it's just been really nice having a parking space and being able to have people over and having all of this space to myself. So yes, a con that I do have, I might as well start bringing in some cons, is if you are a freshman, this is something that I think was really a big factor in deciding it for me. Also, I just feel like I didn't want to go through the hassle of having to find off-campus housing. When I was a freshman, I was like, UF has plenty on campus. Easier, I don't have to think about it as much. I know it's reliable, I know it's gonna be fine. So for me as a freshman, I just thought living on campus was the more peaceful option, and it was for me at the time. Especially because something that I had thought about was I don't have any friends going into college. You know, you don't know anyone, and I was just like, if I'm gonna meet people, I'm gonna need to be on campus. And that is that is a thing for a lot of people, but also it is very possible to meet people living off campus your freshman year. I lived on campus, I was best friends with my roommates, but I didn't really like socialize within my dorm very much outside of her. And my roommate right now, she lived off campus her entire college experience, and we have all the same friends. And so it doesn't, to me, I have not really seen how living off campus really affects community. But for some people, if you're super social, it might really help to live on campus. But also, if you're really antisocial, it might help to live on campus because it forces you to talk to people, it forces you to have a roommate. Whereas if you live off campus, you could just be a hermit in your apartment all day, you know? Whereas if you live on campus, you're forced to go to those floor meetings, you have those area events. Like, I know my freshman year, I was on the Yulee Area Council. It was called YAC. What a great word. And we put on events for like all of the dorms in our area, and so you have those opportunities to find a community if that is something that's really hard for you. But if you are more social, or if you're joining a sorority or a club or something like that, then that's not really a problem. So definitely gauge for you what you feel you need. So living on campus definitely could help with community building. I wouldn't necessarily say it helped me, but I know it helps a lot of people. So I would say that's a con to living off campus, but really it could go both ways. Already talked about parking, that was the next thing on my list. Another pro is alone time. So I would say I'm a fairly social person, so I do like being around my roommates all the time. Like, I rarely ever really close my door except for when I'm filming. And yeah, I just really like to hang out with them. Like, if I'm doing homework, I'll probably sit in the living room and do it just because I like to be around people. But not everybody feels that way, and sometimes I don't even feel that way. Sometimes I just want to come home and lay in my bed and not do anything. And what's great is that when you have your own space, you have that option, and that is not an option if you live on campus. You are forced to talk to someone whether you like to or not. And it definitely, like, when I lived on campus, it was really nice because I just had a really great roommate. So we like understood each other's space, we understood when we were in certain moods and stuff like that. And that was definitely a huge blessing for me coming into college, because it could have gone totally differently, and I've heard all the horror stories. But living off campus, I have that option a lot more freely to just hang out in my room and be a loner if I want to, and just like relax and recharge, or I could just hang out in the living room and talk to my roommates and have fun whenever. So I have that option. And what's the great thing about living off campus is you have those options to be by yourself, or you can be with people. Whereas if you live on campus, you don't really have that option, and it's just kind of up to you and your roommate to figure out, all right, when can I have alone time, when can I not, you know? So like things like that. But I've really appreciated that about my apartment, is it just gives me all of this freedom to experience any mood I need to experience without affecting other people. And then another thing is, this could go both ways. Like I was saying, this is a pro for me, but it could be a con for some people, because some people just they can have too much alone time. And then, you know, college is a really hard time if you start doing, like, I know my freshman year, like, it was rough. It was rough. Like, I had never experienced like any sort of like depression before, but freshman year was not fun. Because my freshman year was so rough, I know that it was definitely the best thing for me that I did have a roommate during that time, because if I had to spend all of those really rough periods by myself, even if it was just like her just sleeping in the other bed or her just like being there, we didn't even have to talk about it, like just knowing that somebody else was in the room, like, makes you feel better, you know, like you're not totally alone. And then just hearing about somebody else's day all the time, so like when you're having a hard time, you know, like you're not the only one. That was really helpful for me, especially as a freshman going through really tough times. And so for that factor, living on campus, I felt was really a blessing my freshman year, because I really needed that my freshman year. Even if I didn't realize it, I really needed to just have someone there. And that might be a thing for you, you know, sometimes you just need someone there because it's very easy to isolate yourself when you're in like a darker time, and so you might need somebody. Even if you don't think you do, or even if you don't want them there, it might be helpful. So for me, I really felt like that was necessary. Now, not so much. I mean, I have them all the time, you know, so like if something was up, they'd know. But yeah, I feel like if you are more prone to like isolating yourself, now is definitely the time to build that community. And if you feel like that's something that you're going to be prone to, maybe live on campus, because you'll always have easy access to the people who love you. Unless you have really great roommates like I do, then you have easy access all the time. But yeah, you know what I mean. Pro kitchen. So when I moved into college my freshman year, I had a meal plan for the summer. So I came in for summer B, which was 6 weeks before the fall semester started. I did like 2 or 3 classes, and I had a meal plan just because I had no idea what it was going to be like. So I was like, you know what, might as well test the waters, see what it's like, and then I can make a decision whether I want to continue this later or just cook for myself. Meal plan was great while I had it. Definitely too much food, I think, for what I could eat, and I was paying way more than I ever would have paid if I was just doing groceries and cooking. So I did not stick with it. It just wasn't the most logical decision for me. Really, for some people that's very different, but I was still living on campus the fall and spring semesters, and I cooked using the dorm kitchens, which was an experience. I didn't love it at all. Just at all. It's very much a hassle having to like lug your stuff to the kitchen and lug it back, and then making food, and then your food smelling up your apartment, which is really annoying to your roommate. And like I always felt bad because I was like, ugh, I'm so sorry our apartment smells like food, or not our apartment, our dorm, I keep saying apartment. I'm so sorry our dorm smells like food and stuff like that. So like I just didn't really love it. It was not very convenient at all. And then I'm definitely like, I'm an eater, like I like to eat. And so I'm not someone who can just eat cereal and like ramen and be cool like that. Like some of you, like that's cool, like that's your thing, like live your life. For me, no, I need a meal kind of a gal. And so that was not gonna fly with me. And so having a full kitchen in my apartment now makes my life so much better. Like my quality of life just skyrocketed. Yeah, I can make food. I don't care if it smells up the place because we have our own rooms and it doesn't matter, and it's big, so it, like the smell goes away. Or like I have like a full fridge, which is amazing. You don't realize how much you need in your fridge until you have a teeny tiny little cooler fridge, and then you're like, wow, I can't fit anything. So needless to say, having a kitchen in my apartment has been so incredibly useful, and I definitely use it a lot. If you're not a big cooker, or if you're on a sorority meal plan, or if you are on another meal plan, that might not matter to you, and that's totally cool. More power to you. But I definitely needed a kitchen, and I'm so thankful for my kitchen, and I think that's definitely something that I treasure for sure. So this is a big con that I think is important to talk about, and when I've watched other videos like these, nobody's really talked about this, and it might just be something that not a lot of people have to experience, but it is something for me because my financial aid pays for my college, so I'm very much dependent on my financial aid. And I know that might be the case for some of you. I know I'm pretty sure UF has like the highest or the lowest percentage of financial need within students or something. I saw a stat like that recently and it blew my mind, but I'm not one of them. I needed my financial aid, and that's definitely how I make a lot of my decisions. financially and logistically with like living and schooling and stuff like that. And living off campus is a little bit harder when you are so reliant on financial aid. When you live on campus, a really wonderful thing that I felt was they're a lot more flexible when you have to pay for certain things. So for example, if you have FAFSA or Bright Futures or any sort of financial aid, then you probably know that it takes a hot minute for that stuff to hit your account and then be dispersed back to you or paid off in your accounts and all that. It just takes a while for money to get to where it needs to be when you're in college. That's a little bit frustrating, a little bit stressful, and a lot of it annoying, but it happens every single year, and UF knows what you have and what you don't, so they're able to delay the due date of your rent or your charges based on when your money has been dispersed, which is really helpful because then you don't have to be stressed out that you can't pay your rent because your financial aid has not been dispersed yet. So that's something that was really helpful about living on campus, and it was really definitely very stress-free because I knew that they knew what was going on and they were in charge of what was going on essentially. Whereas living off campus, rent is due on the 1st. They don't care if you have financial aid or not, you better pay your rent on the 1st. And that's how the real world is. So I mean, it has been a good challenge to figure out ways to pay my rent. Even if my financial aid has not been dispersed yet, it really hasn't been that big of an issue. Thankfully, I have parents who are willing to help me and stuff like that. But living on campus does definitely make that easier, and they are more flexible with you depending on all of that, which is really great and has really been super helpful. And so if you're super reliant on financial aid, that might be a good option for you. So I'm not a sports gal. I'm not into football. It's not my thing. I'm sorry, the lighting is weird right now, but yeah, football, not my thing, never has been. And when I lived on campus, something that was so annoying to me was on game days, like alumni and people from the community are hardcore about their Florida football, and they will pull in with their big freaking RVs any spot they can at like the butt crack of dawn. And I lived in Mallory Hall, which is close to Broward Dining, a little bit further away from the stadium, of all places, and I literally woke up one morning to an RV like butted up against my door early in the morning, waking me up on a Saturday morning. That was not fun. And so there's just a lot of like stuff going on game days, and I just wasn't about it. So living off campus and being far away from that is something I really enjoy. Mind you, my roommates really love football, and it's very easy for them to get to the games and get back, no problems. Obviously it's a lot easier living on campus, but since I'm not a big sports gal, I've really enjoyed being far away. So that might be a pro or a con for some of you. I feel like a lot of these could be pro or cons for some of you guys, but they're just kind of tips that I wanted to make. Another really big pro that I have, and this is the final one, is Decor. I have had so much freedom, and I feel like really the emphasis of this whole video is that the freedom that you have to live off campus. Obviously, I'm trying to not be super biased, but I know a lot of it is biased just because I really have enjoyed living off campus a lot more than on. But obviously all of these things you could take both ways, and they're just things to consider when making your decision. I think for some people it's a really great option to live on campus. I think for some people that works really well. You could just go all 4 years and that's great for you, and that's wonderful. If that works for you, then live it up. But for me, this is just what has worked, and so I just felt like these tips are really good to share with you guys for things that you can consider when making your decision. But yes, freedom for decor and just being able to have all sorts of artistic expression in my space is something I've really enjoyed, and I've loved having that freedom and just being able to make my space my own. I've said it a million times on this channel, but I really think that having your space, a place that inspires you and you just feel so comfortable and at home, and is really important to your success in college, and just as a human, like being sane. And so I've definitely had that here, and just living off campus, I've just been able to really make it my own. You have freedom. If you want to poke something in the wall, you can poke something in the wall. Some places, if you want to paint the wall, you can paint the wall. That's some places, not all. And so there's just lots of options that I'm really thankful for. But yes, so that is all that I have for this video. So I hope that helps you guys when making your decisions. And if you guys have any pros and cons of yourselves that you would like to comment down below, go ahead and do that so you can help out some other people. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.